My name is Tim Levene. I'm the CEO of Augmentum Fintech, and thank you for taking a few moments to hear our story, how we at Augmentum are accessing the emerging asset class that is fintech, and also perhaps shine a little bit of a light on what we're seeing in the market and the opportunity ahead. And it's fair to say that as a result of the challenges of the pandemic, one trend that has been clear has been that accelerated adoption in digital financial services, converting a perhaps stubborn cohort historically that were proving quite difficult to convert. I think what we've seen over the past 12 or so months is an acceleration of perhaps 2 or 3 years, where businesses and consumers that historically were somewhat reluctant have shifted that behavior. And everything that we can see so far is that behavior is proving quite sticky, where they've recognized the benefit of transacting. It's not quite as intimidating as they thought it might be. The ease of access, the cost of doing it is pretty compelling, and certainly something which we think will continue to play out over the coming months and years. But it is an industry that is still very much in its infancy. Yes, we believe we're well beyond the point of no return, but relative to other industries, perhaps you could argue that only 10% of the industry to date has been disrupted, and there is still a long way to go. So we have seen many very significant companies in the fintech space that have been built, that will continue to be built and grow, but also over the coming years, there will be multiple exciting businesses that we hope to be able to access, some of them who are on that journey. And although this is an industry that has seen significant innovation, and you might point to the payment industry that has been going through a real change over the past 15 or 20 years, in 2021, we're continuing to see innovation in arguably the most disruptive space in financial services. And that really now is permeating through every aspect of financial services. No one can hide from the impending innovation and digital and technological advances that are coming. And incumbents are very much eyes open as to the challenges that are presenting themselves, both from fintech direct competitors, but also addressing some of the challenges of their legacy infrastructure issues, which they are looking to those B2B fintechs to help them solve. And for the investor who is waiting for these companies to go public, perhaps to build a diversified public markets fintech portfolio, the challenge is that the amount of capital and variety of capital available to these fintech companies at much later stages is considerable. And the motivation for these companies to go public, frankly, is a lot lower than it was several years ago. And you will see very few of these companies relative to their overall number go to the public markets. And those that do will go at a time when the pricing is pretty significant. And a lot of that upside has already been realized. And I think that really is one of the areas of motivation when we launched Augmentum 3 years ago as a closed-ended fintech investment trust, was to really provide that diversified exposure for retail investors to get access to a number of fast-growing private assets. And that's really very much the DNA of our team. Yes, we are experienced investors. We spent the last 10 years really adapting, learning about this market, but also learning how to be effective investors. But prior to that, we've been associated with many of Europe's most successful digital success stories. And I think that blend of operator, entrepreneur, and investor experience really stands us out from many other funds in the market. And we're a fund that has been moving forward. We continue to grow, but also the interest in the fund is growing as well as we continue to kind of add to the portfolio and the maturity of some of those companies starts to come to the fore. And our last fundraise towards the end of last year was oversubscribed. But I think it's fair to say that we do rely on retail investors being a core part of our supporter base, of our investor base, because frankly, many of our investors are underlying customers of the portfolio as well. And it now is a portfolio that is really diversified across a number of different sectors. And I think that's been something we've been very conscious to do over the past 3 years, to ensure we're covering a number of those sectors that are showing real innovation, real disruption, and to look to back, the one or two companies that are really taking the lead in terms of that innovation. And there's no question we'll continue to add to the portfolio with exceptional opportunities that present themselves. And in some areas, we'll look to kind of increase our exposure in sectors where we feel we are somewhat underweight. And of course, there are areas of continued innovation, insurance being one, where we spend a lot of our time and focus looking at exceptional opportunities there where we don't yet have exposure. But that's not to say that we aren't looking to build some exposure over the coming months and years. And as a result of the network, the history, the time, the relationships we've had in this market, whether it's with entrepreneurs, founders, angel investors, seed funds, other venture funds, that has really allowed us to build a very significant fintech network across Europe that at any one time is presenting opportunities which allow us to look to deploy further capital to increase that diversification in the portfolio. And you'll see here we currently have just under 200 million of opportunity under active development, where we're continuing to look under the hood in a lot more detail. And we would expect to add at least one or two new opportunities over the coming months, as well as continuing to support some of our portfolio companies that are continuing to scale and grow. And so I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts and conclusions. Ultimately, if this is a story and thesis that resonates, then there is a lot more detail on our website, augmentum.vc. But I think for us, now is an incredibly exciting opportunity where we as a fund and as a team can leverage the expertise and capability that we've developed over recent years, where we can really look to capitalize on a market that is growing at a faster rate than ever before, where the interest in the sector and the capital pool is such that we believe the companies will have the capital base in order to fulfill their potential. And in terms of deployment for us, we've always shown a capability to deploy our capital within a reasonable period of time to avoid that cash drag and ensure that portfolio is diversified across a number of sectors. Thank you very much for listening, and all the very best.